excited to have you here today to hear about a great project. With us to present the project are Jim Travers and Garrett Bilella, who are the Director and Assistant Director of Norwalk's Transportation, Mobility, and Parking Department. They have this great project they're working on in the Wall Street section of Norwalk. So I'm gonna let them take it over at this point. They have a lot to share with you all. We will be taking questions. Obviously, it's a coffee and conversation, so we want you to ask your questions. As Lisa said, you can put them in the chat as Garrett and Jim present their project. You can feel free to raise your hand and we'll call on you, or unmute and ask once they're done. Either way, we'll make sure to get them answered. So with that, Jim and Garrett, welcome, and you're all ready to go.
Fantastic. Thanks, Melissa. Hi, everyone. My name is Jim Travers. I'm the Director of Transportation, Mobility, and Parking.
Good morning, Garrett Bilella, Assistant Director for Transportation, Mobility, and Parking.
So I don't think you can have more two excited people to stand in front of you to talk about a project that we have been working on since nearly the day that we got. Actually, I think we started working on this, in the early stages of the dating game of that, which that became Norwalk, right? We saw this incredible opportunity in Wall Street without even understanding the history. So what you see on the screen is our project area that we've identified. This is the one-time downtown of the city of Norwalk. Something you might not know is in the early 1900s, Norwalk came together by the convergence of 6 cities and towns to form the modern day Norwalk. So there was a city of Norwalk. It was a much smaller population than we have today. And this served as the downtown. Now, it largely served as a downtown until about 1955, when a flood came through and devastated the area. And it never really truly reclaimed its vibrance that it once was. But when Garrett and I joined the team, we just drove down here and we saw what amazing possibilities that we could do in transportation without even understanding how many vehicles were coming through here. Just the impact that we could make through a complete streets effort that would dramatically change an area, increase economic development, but what we found was a really super engaged community. So something that we're really super to talk to you about it. We're going to go through pretty quick today, but the presentation will be up afterwards and will be available for questions.
So we'll run through these pretty quick, but just want to talk about some of the overall project goals. So one of the unique challenges about this project is Wall Street and the neighborhood and the corridor is one of the first east-west crossings across the Norwalk Harbor and Norwalk River north of 95. So one of the biggest concerns of the public was traffic, and one of the biggest priorities of the project was we knew we had to make traffic work. As Jim mentioned, economic development, huge goal of the project. This used to be the once prosperous city center, and we're looking at how we can drive and return to prosperity in this neighborhood once again. And also, interestingly, we hear a lot from the public because we have all these unique city centers in the city of Norwalk. Not only do we have to make this neighborhood within itself more accessible, more connected, we also want to make sure we had connections to the other city centers throughout this city. And another big goal, and one of the things we heard from the project, pedestrian connectivity accessibility was one of the major concerns, and you'll see a lot went into making sure we had functional streetscapes and bigger, wider sidewalks throughout the project area. And then one of the other things that was a priority for the neighborhood, based on many conversations with them, is this was really desired to be a regional historic and arts district, so how we could incorporate those elements into the project design.
Can I interrupt you just for 1 second, guys?
Sure.
Yeah. Can you put your presentation on the slideshow mode? It didn't come up that way.
It's not. It is on slideshow mode for us. Hold on.
We'll stop sharing.
Let's stop sharing and we'll restart it, because we do have we're showing it on slideshow mode and we're going through.
Okay.
Hold on 1 second.
And a couple of people said they couldn't see it, so I just want to make sure that everyone's seeing it as you talk about it.
All right. Are we seeing it in full screen now?
Yes.
All right, that's great, because it's just the same way we left it.
Perfect. Oh, good. Right, so, okay, and one of the people who couldn't see it can see it now, so maybe there was just a little glitch.
Zoom quit unexpectedly. Am I still there?
You're good. We're on the project team slide.
That's weird. I just got a mess. Okay. So the project team, really quickly. So we did an RFP for design services. Through that competitive bid, we chose Fussin O'Neill to do our design, with Wesley and Stout to do the landscape architecture throughout the entire project. The photos that you see on the right are from our kickoff event that we had at the historic Wall Street Theater, which is right in the center of this downtown. All right, so hold on one second. Now I froze, right? All right, there we go. Okay. All right, so this, building upon that. So the first workshop was June of 2022, right? From there, we gathered all information of what people said in a really super exciting way. We shared those ideas in our second design charrette in November of that same year. And from that, we wanted to make sure, are we on target? What we heard from you, what your priorities as a community are? Does it align with what the data that we're finding from traffic, from really what we see for land use? And got a final design. We got the okay. We're fine tuning that, and we're going to present the final design to the community in this fall, and then we're going to just start ramping up the actual construction documents from that. But we'll have a good baseline of really where we're going to go with the whole plan at that point.
So want to talk a little bit about some of the outreach that we did, because I think it's really exciting. So particularly the first meeting. So, as Jim mentioned before, there was a lot of planning studies done, one about every 20 years. So there's some disbelief that this project was actually going to get done. So we really wanted to make a big splash with our first public community meeting. And it was really all about just listening and not having any preconceived notions or designs in mind. So we chose a site within the neighborhood. I think it's really important to bring the project to the neighborhood, and that was the historic Wall Street Theater. As you can see, really large. We were able to accommodate over 350 people, but really, and just having good outreach. It's just about making it fun. You'll see we were all wearing purple shirts, some which had just fun sayings from Wall Street: amaze walls, wall-tastic, wall sensational, and just bring some levity to the project. We also brought in local vendors and businesses to do a tasting of Wall Street. So we had a lot of food available to really just highlight the strengths of all the businesses we had in the area. We worked with the library to bring in historic photos, and we had a section that you could just walk through and really, relive some of the history of the neighborhood. And in an effort to really just make a splash, we had a elementary school band there to lead the kickoff. But you'll see that we didn't do a formal presentation. It was really designed as a charrette with a lot of different tables for engagement, and it allowed us to get a lot of feedback, whether it was sticky notes, whether it was writing on posters, whether it was just having a conversation with the project team. We were able to get over 3,000 individual inputs, which was really fantastic.
So you want to get to what we learned?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that we also did at the event is we had a survey, and it was a paper-based survey, a visual preference survey the day of the event. And then we also left it online to get additional feedback. But we got over 470 responses, which is really great for a visual preference survey. But I think it's important, some of the questions that we asked, and not only did we just ask about what they imagine the future Wall Street, we collect a lot of demographic information to really understand our audience. And you can see from some of the information we collected, there's a mix of really new residents and business owners to the area, but also you have a really great representation of institutional knowledge, people that have been in the city for several years. You can see from this, maybe we could do a better job of targeting some of the younger audience, but I really emphasize just getting this feedback is really important to continue the conversation and making sure that we're touching all the different stakeholders in the area. And one of the interesting things that we did, we had a lot of planning studies, really holistic vision overall, but then we did these visual preference services to really get into the nitty-gritty and ask people what elements they wanted their street to look like, and what really were the aesthetic elements that were important to them.
From the survey, this is a quick glimpse of what the survey looked like. So we provided an online survey allowing people to look at images, and then we asked them to rate those images. How did it make you feel? This is about creating an environment. An environment is about how we feel. So we got did people find this kind of lighting appealing? So it became the driver of how we were going through with the plans going forward.
So next, just talking about, so just summarizing really what we heard. A lot of it was about the neighborhood and its scale. We really, we had an understanding from the public that it was really designed to be auto-centric for really the throughput of traffic. And one of the largest feedback and inputs we got was really bringing down the scale to a pedestrian level. And of course, there was a lot of safety concerns. This corridor itself has some of the top ranked intersections for crash rates in the city, and then also some of the top roadway segments. So we heard a tremendous amount about safety, and not only safety, also perceived safety as well.
Parking, right? We always hear about parking for us folks in parking, right? So the parking was a number of things. The city instituted angle-in parking a few years ago. What we heard was in large numbers, people didn't like angle-in parking, right? So and they wanted to make sure that as part of the new plan, it didn't include the angle-in parking, right? But we also have a garage, which many areas don't have the luxury to. But our garage was built in the mid 1970s. It very much looked like the 1970s. So they also wanted improvements to that garage, and you'll see on the lower left-hand side of your screen what the new garage looks like, right? So this is we're adding a cornice to the top, adding a cornice to the bottom, and painting the ribs in between in varying shades of blue. But again, the community got to vote on what the final look was. So we had a number of different colors and options to choose from, but we're also creating a plaza. And this was what you're seeing on the left-hand side of that is that largely the back of house, but we're changing that to really be an integral part of the safety and the mobility, the invitingness that comes from our facilities.
Yeah, and one of the things that's really interesting about this project is it's at the city center, but it's also at the convergence of several of our trail assets. So we have the Norwalk River Valley Trail, which is going to be a regional attraction. We have the Harbor Loop Trail, and we were also looking at doing some types of river walks. So it was really important that we continued and provided that multimodal connectivity through the neighborhood. One of the advantages to redesigning for more or less a downtown area is if we can't accommodate a dedicated bike facility on one street, we can look at other streets. So what really came out of the meetings was Wall Street. There was a really big desire for wider sidewalks. And we could only do that if we move the bike routes to a different roadway through the area. So we looked at Burnell Boulevard as being that bike route. And it also worked really nicely because we had a pulse point and a transit station that it would connect directly to. So there's a lot of trade-offs we made, but ultimately we're able to capture all these elements in the larger project design.
So back to that transit facilities that we heard. So a number of years ago, the city turned Burnell Boulevard from two-way to one-way and made it as a transit hub. Right? We have limited crossings across the Norwalk River, and this presented a little bit of a challenge. And the neighborhood really wanted the bus pulse point to be integrated in the neighborhood, to have move it from the angle-in buses to the parallel stops that we can elongate through the entirety of Burnell Boulevard. But we think that what we heard, we want to improve the transit facilities, and so our plan is including that right there.
So gathering and event spaces, we had met with the community on several occasions, and this was a really critical part of the project. They had looked to close some of the existing streets today, such as River Street, but it was really cost prohibitive. So a big part of this project was making sure that we designed, for example, a curbless street from the ground up to really accommodate these gathering spaces. But also one of the desires too is there wasn't a lot of just smaller gathering spaces throughout the community. So you'll see throughout the design, wherever we had space at intersections or along the roadside, you'll see a bunch of smaller gathering spaces. And also one of the biggest comments from the community was building upon some of the existing spaces we had, such as Freeze Park. And you can see a picture of that in the bottom left. But it's just not very connected to the overall roadway network. And you'll see some designs that really brought it to life moving forward.
Traffic, the thing we live and breathe, right? So Garrett was talking to you before about what some of the challenges of this is the first crossing of the Norwalk River that's north of 95, right? So it's the first really local crossing that we have, right? So we knew that presented a challenge, and we need to to figure that in by, we went through data gathering, we did analysis, we provided the results, and then really led us to what, to what we could do. We have to make traffic work, right? So we heard from the community, the safe throughput of vehicles. It's our priority as well. I think it's been our priority for our careers, right? But what we were really able to find is it's really possible to accommodate high volume traffic areas and really create a complete street, right? And then, the other thing is, we redefined what the bus pulse point could look like, and we are positioned to convert Burnell Boulevard to two-way.
Yeah, so just as a review, just to throw the design goals back out there, really bringing the scale down to a pedestrian level was a priority. Just making sure that we could accommodate all modes throughout the entire project area. Jim mentioned parking several times, and it really is a priority to have adjacent to the businesses, but also just to improve access to our other facilities. We have a lot of parking in the area, whether it's lots or garages, but the biggest criticism that we have today is just the perception of safety. So that's something that we really looked at. But you also see emphasis in some of the other things we talked about, really just getting those spaces strewn about throughout the larger corridor project and bringing in some of the history into the project.
So we're going to run through what the design looks like. We'll run through it really quickly because we understand we're a little late on time here. So we'll get that so that we have enough. Are we good, Melissa? Okay, great. Perfect. Then we'll just, all right. So if everyone can free the rest of the afternoon, we can talk about the Wall Street until we are blue in the face, right? Belden, West, and Wall, the intersection. This intersection was the first thing that Garrett and I looked at, and we was like, whoa, this is a lot going on here. And yes, we have high speeds because we created these pull-ups, and it just, as we started to look at it, we had a lot of crashes that are coming in this corridor. And then the thing that I think many of you probably noticed, if you're a pedestrian, you're screwed, right? Because you just can't get through here. You can see in the center island that there's a line where pedestrians have just started walking through. We're not accommodating pedestrians here. That is one of the first things that we really want to do is create a pedestrian-friendly environment. So we have a realignment of this to, drum roll, this. So you'll see two big plazas that appear on each side. We'll have a normalized teed-up intersection that tees up with Mott. And we've created, the correct number of lanes that's going to support the traffic. So we're not going to have backup, but it's really going to create a gateway. These plazas on each side are about creating a gateway into the community. We're seeing something like inspiration coming to us from the image that was on the left of the screen.
Yeah, and these are some of my favorite slides, just showing you what was before and what we're really looking at doing. So here you can just see, again, really limited sidewalk space, not able to accommodate a frontage zone, on-street dining, or anything of that nature. The back and angle parking just takes up a lot of space today. And what we heard from the community is they would be perfectly content moving to a more parallel configuration if we were to reclaim some of the streets. So you can see as the design advances, we're looking at a much narrower street, much more room for frontage zone for businesses, clear space for pedestrians, beautiful sidewalk amenities. But some of the things I wanted to point out, which we really love here, we have a raised crosswalk. We're able to actually eliminate some signals, one being a pedestrian signal, and incorporate a raised crosswalk. That really just pays homage to the community, a local musician that was born here, a famous jazz musician, Horace Silver. And then also it's right in front of the theater. So a great photo opportunity. You'll see we included some gateway arches over the street. And we also eliminated another signal at Isaac Street. And one of the great things about complete streets is when you move into the street and you can bump out the intersections, you can actually get better sight lines that did not exist in such a tight, historic, and confined area prior to that.
Burnell Boulevard and Main Street. You see the upper right hand side of that screen, and I'm sorry, upper left hand side of the screen where Burnell Boulevard meets Main Street. Turning that Burnell Boulevard to two-way is obviously going to increase the opportunity for traffic that's going to go through. How do we navigate that intersection in a safer way? How do we make sure that the buses can navigate through there, do their turning movements? And what we got is an introduction of a roundabout. So this is going to be our first roundabout that we've done. Our board here has a number of other opportunities for roundabouts that we're looking for funding to happen. But this will be, I think, an integral part of how we move. Getting cyclists through here, but really talking about really creating a corridor that has slower speeds, that's going to be respectful of the business center that's in there. So we're super excited about integrating this into it.
Yeah, and this brings us to the pulse point. So what you see before you is a section of Brunello Boulevard that's one way today. And we know that making a successful downtown is really about connectivity. So how we can take this section that exists today that really is, Jim touched upon a little bit, but it really just serves as a bus depot. It's not really connected. It operates a little bit in isolation, and how we can connect it better to the neighborhood. So you'll see a design that really moves out the angled spaces, and that has been a huge challenge with vehicles and pedestrians when buses have to back out, but really comes up with a simpler configuration where the buses just line up in the direction of the routes that they serve, and they can actually use the roundabout should they need to turn around and exit. But you'll see a two-way street that has bicycle facilities that connect directly to the pulse point. You'll see on the right side of the screen a raised intersection for traffic calming. And then one of the other advantages of making the street two-way is we have an access point to the garage. So we'll get a lot more activity, and instead of having people have to circulate the neighborhood and use wayfinding to find the garage, it will be right there at street level, and will improve the accessibility of that garage.
Sidewalks and public spaces, right? So we're back to where I started when I talked about the initial part of what we did with this intersection configuration, getting these islands here, really paying homage, getting really wider sidewalks, setting the tone that this is, pedestrian friendly environment here, and that we're creating this gateway feature, but it's also this meeting area and this meeting space that people could go to. So that largely started to talk about what this intersection could look like. I think this is the intersection that's going to change the most here, and then you'll see very easy pedestrian access that's going across here, but really wide sidewalks that make people feel comfortable.
Yeah, and then here's just some of the examples of the gateway treatment we look at. So on the bottom of the screen, you can just see the arches, which we look to have about 4 to 5 that just set the tone throughout the corridor and make this neighborhood somewhat unique.
The corridor itself, right? So Garrett talked a little bit about this before. You'll see the yellow dashed lines those are the placement of the gateway features that we have, the arches that go across, the raised intersection, the piano keyboard. We talked about that. Our conversation with the theater is that for every band that they have there, they can do the Beatles walk across the theater. So across that crosswalk, but the picture of it is so that the theater is also going to be in the background. So it'll be a great little add-on tool. But you see the screen on the top is really our inspiration that's going there. When you see those wings, those already take place in there today, and those are the Wall Street wings. And it's a mural that already exists, and we heard from the community really the opportunity to enhance those more throughout the corridor.
This is a tremendous and tremendously important component of the project, the perception of safety. I go back to it, but really just making sure the area is much more well lit. People are comfortable walking to and from the garage at the lots. And then you'll also see a large emphasis. We're one of the laggers as a community as far as urban canopy. And also we have really high amounts of impervious surface to this neighborhood, and we're a coastal community. We're subject to climate impacts, and we also have the river right there. So there's going to be a tremendous amount of green infrastructure included in the project as well. And you can just see some examples here, and also the streetscape.
The historic content, we heard this left, right, and center. Really wanted to make sure that we're paying homage to the history that is Norwalk. You'll see the shuttle on the right-hand side. There was a Wall Street train station. We've done a feasibility. It doesn't meet a feasibility analysis to bring that Wall Street train station back, being the close proximity we are to East Norwalk train station. But what we really feel is that we can create a shuttle operation that looks like a trolley that will be connecting Wall Street to Sono to East Norwalk to Wall Street, and just do that constant loop that gets there. We heard that, there was a lot of trolleys that went down here. And in fact, the trolley repair section house was on Wall Street. So we know that there's trolley tracks underneath the road. How do we incorporate those in some element afterwards? We don't really know. We're just going to wait to see what we find, but we know that we have bricks under there and you know, all those things that we're going to make sure they're an integral part of the future design.
And here's just some more example of the arts integration. On the top left, you'll just see a customized bike rack to the area. We actually did one of these in Sono in South Norwalk, and the reception was really great. So we did quickly a design and Photoshop myself in there to convey at the public meeting. But you just see some other examples of decorative crosswalks, opportunities for murals, and then some unique placemaking elements as well that really are inspiring the design moving forward.
And our gathering spaces. So this is really interesting. So this is River Street. This connects Wall Street to Burnell Boulevard. It's largely been a cut-through street for mostly buses at this point because of how Burnell is this one-way configuration. But again, we have the angle parking that people don't like. But what we found through our analysis is that once we start putting buses in the right direction, once we have Burnell Boulevard two-way, this street it's an important street because it has the connection mid-block that we want to maintain to our garage, but it's not a necessity to have every time. So this is a great opportunity for us to design this as a curbless street that be able to close for festivals, right? You see the waves that are going to go through the pattern that we have here to represent our River Street. But what you saw that it was a really smaller street that really was accommodating the vehicles that are going through, but all in a curbless environment so that this could be closed down and be festivals. And in fact, this is where we hosted a Wall Street Christmas celebration or holiday celebration, tree lighting, this past Christmas, just to start showing people this is what we think could happen if we close the street down and have a festival. We were competing with Stu Leonard's tree lighting at that time, and we held our own. Right, so I think we saw that the community really demanding this is going to be something that we do going forward. So this is a great opportunity for us for the River Street. This is again just another look at it because I think we love this one so much, right? So we wanted to show you another view. This is what we imagine this could be as this really pedestrian gateway. That's also going to allow vehicles, but the tone is going to be much different.
And lastly, integration of Freeze Park. So you'll just see some inspirations and some things we looked at. We had on the top left of the photo, we have a municipal parking lot, how we can reclaim some of that space, improve access and sight and views to the Norwalk River. So you'll see a river walk. Also, great opportunity to connect parking on one side of the river to the park. And maybe there's a food truck festival in Mechanic Street lot, and then people can walk across this proposed contact or some prefabricated type of bridge like that. And then access the park and then just improve the capacity and connectivity. And then you'll see some elements incorporating streetscape around the park and some of the inspirations on the right.
The Yankee Doodle Garage connection, right? So we have this Yankee Doodle Garage. It's going to be harder it's hard to get to now. We're going to be making these investments in it. What we look at on the the lower right-hand side. But you'll see, I don't know if you can see my cursor following through. We are in negotiations with the federal government now and the post office to create an easement or a procurement of this land swap, since we have some other land that we can give them to create a better parking lot for them. But this will get us a connection to Wall Street. So we'll have this connection to the top of Wall Street. We'll have another connection to, via River Street to mid-block crosswalk. So, this is, this garage is really about creating more access and have it, really useful to the community. The library is also up here. So, big opportunities for us to really have the garage support the local business. And our last drum roll, I think, we forgot a drum, right? But this is what we look like in its entirety of what we've been talking about. through the last 20 minutes or so. This is the project area, but you see that hopefully you see the big difference. We have an off-road cycle track on Burnell Boulevard, the roundabout. We have a pedestrian bridge that's going across the Norwalk River. I think when we drove the area the first time, we didn't even know the Norwalk River was there, right? We're not highlighting it. We're talking about removing all the deciduous growth that's around there, opening up the river to the people, and then putting a pedestrian bridge across there, just really highlighting that, really connecting each part of this project to the various parts of the community. So really super excited about this. So where are we now, right? This guy.
Yeah, so through the community involvement process, this project has really grown, and it's estimated to be about $27 million. But everything you see before you today, helped us sell that project to have commitments for $21 million. So we're getting really close. We're working on the gap funding. It's a combination of different state, federal, ARPA, federal appropriations, state appropriations, LOTSIP. And what we really imagine is this is going to be a multi-phase project, which will take place over the next 5 to 6 years. And what is going to happen, we're really excited. We just got our authorization to advertise phase 1, which is going to be an existing LOTSIP grant for East Wall Street. It's about a block between Main and Brook Street, but it's really going to set the tone of what this project is. So we hope to be in construction, shovel in the ground this fall. And after that, we'll work on subsequent phases on a yearly basis until we can get each component of the project done.
So, I just, before we leave this stage and go, I just want to, the fact that we are $27 million funded of a $21 million funded of a $27 million project is pretty amazing. I think it's amazing to this gentleman right here who's tirelessly written grants to make that happen. But more importantly, I have to pay homage to a couple of people out there today. And one of them is Senator Bob Duff, who listened to us when we talked about this idea to redo this and said we needed some seed money. Bob was able to secure for us a $3.5 million federal state appropriation that we've used as the seed money to get everything else. And then we had a conversation with Congressman Jim Himes. Congressman Jim Himes also believed in our vision. He's a huge advocate for bike walk improvements. Really saw the value that this going in, and he got for us a $5.5 million federal earmark. And then this would not be possible without our friends at the Connecticut Department of Transportation, who got us a $2 million LOTSIP application to fund the first section. We have a $7 million LOTSIP application to work on for the larger Wall Street area. We have $2 million that's coming from the Norwalk Parking Authority for their improvements of the garage. So this effort is just really something that we get to stand on the shoulders of giants as we get to this. There's a lot of work that's been and a lot of players at hand. So very much appreciated to all our partners that's allowed to make that happen. So that's it for our presentation. Happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
Thank you both so much. I love this project. I know you both love this project. I have to say that as someone who has driven through this neighborhood many, many times, I'm just so excited for this project. I'm excited for when it's complete and I can drive through and it will be completely different. That one intersection just always, I shake my head every time I drive through that one intersection with its islands and it's like little one-way cut through and it's kind of confusing.
Melissa, if I can just a second, I just want the history of this is just really, as we didn't know the history when we got here, right? We were just two guys that said, that there's an opportunity to do this. But there were studies back to 1985, I think was our first one that we found, that said the time has come and the city's going to finally make an investment, right? And then we did another one in the 90s, and then we did another one in 2000, and then we did another one, in the 2010s, right? And when we entered this community saying, hey, we want to do this, we were like, we heard that before, right? I think that tone has changed. Our relationship with the community is really tight, right? They see it happening, and I think that we're also getting people. There's an investment that's occurring, right? And whether that's occurring because of the promise of work that's done, but I think they're really starting to see, this is going to be a reality, and there's a lot of level of excitement about this. The community is wonderful. We're invited down all the time. It's been really great. They've been super supportive, but this is a long time in the making. And I think there's a lot of opportunity for it to happen.
So this is just so you know, Mark Moriarty had to jump off to go to another meeting. I don't know if you saw it come up, but he did want to tell you special project and great job, guys, before he jumped off. So and Lisa apparently wants to go to Norwalk this weekend now.
Okay.
Now that she's seen your presentation, but we did have a question come in. Are there any specific transit improvements included in the project? I know you talked a little bit about changing the bus section, and do you have any other specific transit improvements?
So I think that there's a massive going to be, we're working with the Norwalk Transit District for a massive change to what's happening with the Pulse Point, right? We understand the Pulse Point is an integral part of the neighborhood and how it serves the entire community. We just want it to operate better. We're also working at how we could integrate a shuttle that would connect to key points so that we could have like the shuttle that would constantly be running. We have the bike lanes that are going to be on Brunel Boulevard, but we also, more importantly, I think we have a project that is introducing a roundabout, introducing raised crosswalks, introducing many more crosswalks that's throughout the section. That's about reducing the speed of vehicles, getting them to coalesce better with the greater public. So I think transit in its entirety is being addressed in the project.
Yeah, and I think really where we lose it today is first and last mile connectivity. Just as a pedestrian, I can't emphasize enough how difficult it is to get around the neighborhood, and how the lack of crossings just makes people feel uncomfortable, safe. So I think a lot of that is going to be addressed through all the streetscape and the complete streets improvements.
Sure. I'm going to let people put questions in the chat if they have any. I have a question that's somewhat related to what you just said, focusing more on some non-motorized vehicles. So I know you said bike racks, so you have some bike facilities there. And actually, my question's more about motorized vehicles, just not cars. So e-bikes are exploding in popularity. I don't know, if Norwalk has a lot of folks who use scooters, who already use e-bikes, but have you factored in, since this is a several year project, locations for those as well?
So I think, what you saw that the custom bike rack, right? So we have been, since we've been here, we've been adding these custom bike racks to bring a little levity and fun and recognition. So, our first year here, we doubled the amount of bike lanes. Our second year here, we doubled the amount of bike lanes. Through the help with our transportation planner, Greg Pacelli, who's on here, who's tirelessly been working, with us to look at every single project and every single opportunity. We're looking we'll double again. At some point in time, we're not going to be able to double every year, but we also want to make sure that recognition is there. So, we did a shark bike rack at the Maritime Aquarium. We did the Sono bike rack in the heart of Sono and at the Sono train station. We just did, the symbol for Rowayton is a sailboat, and we did one exact replica of that logo in Rowayton. We have a train at the East Norwalk train station. So we're really looking at increasing that. Our effort has been citywide and on increasing our cycling network. We work very closely with a fantastic bike walk commission to further advance those. And then currently right now we are also in the middle of a project to introduce Norwalk as the 13th state to adopt complete streets legislation. And we're working on that complete streets design manual. When we're doing that with FHI Studio, that will really set the tone of what's like and what we're going to build and everything in the future. But this, I think we have we're looking at every opportunity, not just one place, but you should be able to just park your bike, very much your car. We want to prioritize pedestrians and cyclists at the same level that we're prioritizing motor vehicles, right? That's what a complete street is, right? And we're gonna get there, and we'll have lots of different options. And we're also working with developers to making sure that those are included in development opportunities as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, I also think so. I want to add to about in regards to complete streets. We're so fortunate to have this project happening simultaneously with our complete streets effort to really show people what's possible. We're working on a design and implementation guide, but I think some of the renderings and the visuals that you see from this project really help sell, why we should support this. Help develop our policy, and this can happen simultaneously with that. We don't have to wait. The other thing, which we're working on too, is we're actively looking at whether it's a mill and pave project, or we have some additional grant funding to the east of this corridor, is to get a connected bike network, not only within the corridor, but to the neighborhood. So for example, we're looking at West Avenue right now, and there'll be a mill and pave this summer, and how we can potentially do some bike facilities. But a big part of this project is how we connect it to the other neighborhoods. And, we're not waiting for that design guide to be complete. We're actively looking at those as those opportunities arise.
Yeah, no, I love that you're doing this simultaneously with your complete streets policy. I think this project, like if you can do this project, right, you can do
It's a
pretty much
downtown.
any complete
That
streets
opportunity
project.
doesn't come up very often. This is a transformational project and once in a lifetime project.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we thought this was going to be $7 million, right? And then it became $13 million, then it became 15, then it became 17, and then all of a sudden we woke up and it's 27, right? We're committed to. We're not holding a dollar amount. We'll find the funding out there to make it happen. We're committed to making this the best project that's going, and really one that's going to respond. What did the pandemic teach us, right? It taught us that we wanted to be outside more, right? You saw restaurants really engage, in outdoor spaces. For one, we had to do it as a necessity, but it's not a necessity anymore, but everybody still wants that, right? So we're creating those really wide sidewalks that are going to be here. That's going to support on-street dining, but yet still be able to move pedestrians and give pedestrians, really adequate, more than adequate space, right? We're going to have really wide 15-foot sidewalks that are going to go down here. That's going to be a game changer to what's happening, right? But all our lighting is going to get rid of the old highway style lighting and moving into the pedestrian level lighting. Adding street trees for that level of comfort, adding street furniture that hits down there. It's really about we know that this corridor will be successful if we prioritize the pedestrian and really put and when we prioritize the pedestrian, we know that the slower speeds have to be there, which then makes it better for motors and also cyclists. So this is, I think, going to be a win-win. We're super excited to continue to get to work on this one.
Yeah, actually was going to ask you, you mentioned the sidewalk width. One of my questions is relating to ADA accessibility. So obviously, as you build wider sidewalks but have furniture and have dining, I know that you both are aware of the, accessibility issues that exist currently in this neighborhood. I'm sure
it's a challenge. It's a challenge in the garage, right? We're redesigning the garage. We homage to the folks at THA who are working with us on a redesign of the Yankee Doodle garage, but we don't have a very, ADA accessible garage, right? And we're going to bring all of those up to code that we do. But yeah, this corridor will be walked and ridden or drove by anyone fairly comfortable, 8 to 80 and all levels of abilities. We're very much committed to that. And I think we have really great connections to the Norwalk River Valley Trail that we continue to advance. And again, our paying homage to Congressman Himes, who's given WestCog nearly $5 million in a grant to advance the Norwalk River Valley Trail.
No, that's fantastic. I have another question. I'm not seeing any other people have questions. I can't believe none of you have questions about this project, but that's okay because I have more. So, so mine's kind of a two-part question. So my first question is, how did you promote and advertise your charrettes and your public meetings? Because you had fantastic attendance and you had a lot of input. So I'm just curious how you promoted that and got that many people at your charrette that you showed us. And then the second part to that question is, I know that you said you're actively engaged with this community, but how are you keeping them apprised of the project? Do you have a project website? How are you following up with them as things progress?
Yeah, so I think one of the interesting things is this has been a whole team effort. So we've really knocked on the door of every business owner, whether that was our intern delivering a flyer, whether it was our assistant parking director having conversations about existing challenges and opportunities for better. And then we met with the community several times prior to any of these meetings. And, we always made sure that we came with the flyer and just a reminder, we're going to have this larger meeting. This is everyone's opportunity to participate and provide additional feedback and to make sure that it's captured. But we did several neighborhood meetings. And then we went as far as to have the Wall Street Theater on their marquee advertise the event. We have a great relationship with the library. So and we had posters for business windows. So we really went, through as many channels, and of course we leveraged social media as possible. And we've kept a rolling email list for at any meeting, any contact that we've gotten from the project's inception, so that we can just keep blasting reminders and keep people excited about the project throughout the entirety of the project. So I think that really helped. And really, after we had that first event at the Wall Street Theater, it wasn't hard to get people to come to the next one, just building that inertia from the beginning. We do have a project website. So if you go to norwalkct.gov and transportation, mobility, and parking within the city government section, there's a link on the left side of transportation, mobility, and parking for the Wall Street project. And we keep it up to date. We really went, I think, great lengths to make sure that for those that couldn't make the events, that all of the material was online. So we videotaped the theater event, we videotaped the library event. You can watch the entire presentations. The presentations are there. A lot of the materials you saw from today's presentation are uploaded to the website, so you can download them at any time at your convenience. And we've really kept the feedback loop open throughout the entire process. So there's a dedicated email address to the project, and people can provide any questions, comments, concerns throughout the entirety of the project.
And Melissa, I also want to add, when we did the RFP, we understood from the community that engagement was a big factor. So we really built that into our RFP. And one of the determining factors that brought us to Fuss and O'Neill was their commitment to community engagement. They really impressed us with that, equally with the design portion. So we have to recognize the efforts of Fuss and O'Neill who helped deliver a strong message and a really strong kickoff event that got excitement there. And then we had the band, we had the news media there. We put on a show, and I think, but what we have is Garrett's right, like. It's going through a lot of soles in our shoes as we walk the street and talk to people and get people excited about it. But what we found out is we didn't have to do a lot to gain excitement. The community really wanted to see investments happen in this corridor.
Excellent. Thank you. I do say that public outreach is such a big piece of these projects. I think everyone who's worked in a municipality has had those projects where you're excited, you go to your first public meeting and everyone's like, we don't want this. Why are you doing this?
But I really think the first meeting was designed as just a listening session. So even though there had been numerous plans, decades old, and there was some consensus on what the vision was, we really just opened it up to everyone. To what do you want your street to look like? What do you want it to feel like? And we just listened. And from there, we went and we came back with some comments and further tweaked the concepts, but and that will continue. We're going to have another public meeting this fall and another opportunity for the public to weigh in and tweak the design.
Yeah, which is great. We did have
Melissa, I
one
also
question.
see Kevin talked about resilience, right? And I think that resilience is a key factor here because we're a coastal community, right? We feel these effects all the time. We know it's coming. So after the 1955 flood, there was a lot of effort coming in through the government to kind of mitigate those. Those opportunities from the river standpoint, right? But we still have to avoid as much water getting in there. So you see a lot of green infrastructure. There'll be a lot of green infrastructure embedded in the plan. There's a lot more street trees, a lot more green, we're adding a lot more green space in every opportunity that we can. We are looking at, how we would look at maybe permeable pavers, but, we really want to have, bioswales, and street trees, an integral part of that design to have people walk through. So yes, very much looking, at the impact of climate.
Yeah, that's always an issue with coastal communities, right? I will say just for folks, Lisa just put in the chat the link to our Complete Streets Information Exchange page on our website, which is where today's recording will be, which is where Jim and Garrett's presentation will live. And I'm certainly going to ask them. I know they'll say yes. As the project moves along, we'd love to add updates to that as phases are completed and just highlight the project as it goes. I'm also probably going to duplicate some of those on our great safety examples repository, because they are great examples of safety countermeasures that you're going to be working on and installing there. We are getting close to the end time. I do want to give anyone else an opportunity to ask a question. I have one more question / comment if I don't see anything else come in the chat. And then I will just say that Lisa is going to add one more thing towards the end here. We do ask that you fill out a little survey that we've created for our coffee and conversation. So if you could do that before you leave the webinar this morning, we would appreciate it. Not seeing anyone typing anything in there right now. My last question is just, and I know you talked about this, but just to go back to the funding piece of it for a minute, you always hear, right? That's a kind of a thing you hear all the time. Yeah, great projects. How are you going to pay for them? My question really is just, and I know you mentioned all the different partners, but I guess, and again, it's kind of question / comment, but the thinking of, we're not going to be able to fund this through one source, right? How are we going to locate all of these different funding sources for a project of this size once it got to 27 million? And I think sometimes people have a hard time, thinking about the sources that are out there. And, I don't know which one of you, if you could give us like a, 60-second answer to that question, but how you really thought about that and thought, okay, what are all of the possibilities, right, for funding?
So let me get one, and we'll toss it back and forth. I think this has been, it's been a challenge that we've been working through the thing. I think first off, we really have to recognize, an administration in the city of Norwalk that believes in the work that we're doing, right? Mayor Rilling, this wouldn't happen if Mayor Rilling wasn't 1000% behind the redevelopment of Wall Street. So, this has been, a commitment from his administration, and from the very first conversation that we have, looked at funding, gave us the initial seed money to start that, and then that seed money led to additional money coming out of the capital budget for the following year, and then additional money that's coming out of the capital budget this year. So administration, whether it's the mayor or elected members of the Common Council, have been 1000% behind this. So it doesn't happen without that. But that gives us, I think that was I think the first conversation that we had breakfast with Senator Duff. Shared with him a vision that was just in our heads and nothing on paper, right? We're scratching things down on back of napkins and talking about it. And, he gave us the $3.5 million and it's seed money, right? And one thing doesn't, we're not going to get one funder that's going to give us $27 million, right? There are, some communities do win the lotto and get that happen, right? We're not that lucky, right? But I think we're really lucky in identifying, the variety of different opportunities for funding. I'm going to get like Garrett to spend a little bit of time, on those, but it's a huge effort to undertake. It's not easy, right? The reconciliation part is going to be a challenge to begin with, right? It's never free money, right? We know that. But why don't you take over like who we're getting some funds from?
Yeah, and I think just to take a step back to Jim mentioned the mayor and his support and the Common Council supporting the first $350,000 of design. Obviously, that is not enough to get us a shovel-ready project. And we've gone back and actually in subsequent years we continue to fund the design, and we'll work on it a phase-by-phase process. But just having that initial seed money, which is so critical because that allowed us to get out in the community and do the outreach, and the outreach allowed us to get the publicity, get the press, get the excitement around the community. And we also leveraged a lot of those old plans. They just didn't sit on a shelf. So we had a lot of great documentation that we built into our application and requests for additional funding. But being able to leverage those old plans, but also get back in the community and get some excitement around the project has been really critical. That helped us get the initial $3.5 million seed money from Bob Duff, and then having that seed money allowed us to go after bigger applications, bigger carrots, and have a match. Have some, we have our city design money, we have some construction money, so making it a lot more palatable for funders, and providing a proof of concept too. So I think that's been really helpful. LOTSIP's been a really great program. Our first phase that's going to begin is going to be LOTSIP funded, and we were also able to get another phase endorsed through LOTSIP, which has been really great. And we continue to look for other sources. So looking outside transportation to DCD money. That's what we're really looking at to provide that gap funding. Now that we're so close to having a finished project, so we have a couple applications as well. But I go back to just that initial, you need some initial design money, you need some money to do the outreach, build some excitement, and that's really, we've been able to capitalize on that.
And I think breaking it out into phases so people start seeing the work getting done, and then I have to end. We did the best kickoff meeting ever. It was so exciting. There was a band playing, there was food, there was multiple stations. So we didn't sit there and give you a presentation and talk to you we opened it for over 4 hours, right? So we got people to come and go as they wanted, but they got to talk to various stations, whether they were interested in parking, whether they were interested in lighting, whether they're interested in sidewalks, whether they're interested, in on-street parking, in throughput of vehicles, in bike lanes, in pedestrian improvements. They got to focus in on a table that was going to be able to get their level of interest. And I think that's how we got the biggest excitement from it. And then when you get an event that you have 350 people out with 472 surveys, that gives us a leverage to talk to grantees about the opportunity of this, and understand that the community is very much engaged in this. It doesn't happen. You talked before, like you do this great plan. The community says, "Oh, I hate it," right? We don't want to get there, and we've not been there, so we walk with them through the entire process, and we're all walking together. And I think that's a little bit of a difference of how it's coming together.
No, and I think that's very important. I think that's an important component to successful projects, right? Is the listening to what the community wants and then taking them through to the end is so important. So thank you again. Like I said, I love this project. I know that you both love it and are so excited about it. I'm excited to watch it start to happen. Lisa has put a slide up with the QR code for the survey. It's also there's a link in the chat. Please, like I said, if you could just help us out briefly, 60 seconds to take the survey, we would appreciate it. Jim and Garrett, thank you so much. I know we could probably talk about this forever, but
We
I
can.
do
Thank you.
appreciate your time this morning and everyone who joined us. I appreciate you joining us this morning. I have a feeling that you'll hear more about this project as it moves forward. Certainly, like I said, we'll share it on our Complete Streets page. But thank you guys both. So exciting, such a great project. I really love it.
All right. Thank you. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone. Have a great day.
Appreciate it.
Call us if you have any questions.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay.
All right, I'm sorry if I brought that slide up too soon. I
No,
thought
that's
it
okay.
was
Let me
like
you want me
ending.
to stop recording here? Hold on.
Yes, yeah,
Stop.
I can do it too. Did you get it?
Stop recording.